All right, I believe we're live.
Hello.
So just do us a favor, if you can hear this, type into the chat box. It's down at the bottom of the page, and just let us know you can hear us. And actually, I'll do a quick check as well.
Yeah, because last time we did a webinar, we had the wrong mics on. So
Test.
testing. Can you hear us? Hello?
Seems like we're very quiet.
You turn us up. Sorry, technical difficulties.
All right, testing. That should be much better.
Testing.
All right, testing. That should be much better.
Testing.
Beautiful, we're working. So how is it going, everyone? We got a couple minutes before we're starting, but we just wanted to jump on.
Oh, yep.
Beautiful. You say we're just having all sorts of technical difficulties tonight. But we just want to jump on a couple minutes beforehand and really get a feel for who we have on the call and where you guys are at with your business. So the chat box is down at the bottom of the page. If you hop down there.
Hi, Ashley.
Oh, hi, Ashley. Just let us know, do you have a business now? Are you looking to start a business? And, what is your business? What's your industry? What's your business in?
We're loud enough now. Good. Okay.
All right, just quick tip for anyone that hasn't used this platform before. You can actually use the bottom or the little icon at the bottom of the chat window with the arrow pointing out to throw the chat window out, and that way you can look at the video as well as the chat. Ashley wants to get in our business and make us laugh. I'm sure that'll happen.
You can get in our business anytime. It's the famous Ashley Grant, people.
Yeah, it was great. We went on Facebook Live for the first time tonight, and of course, we held the phone sideways.
Yeah, rookie mistake. I've never done Facebook Live before. Didn't test it ahead of time.
Yeah, you can't do something new without some sort of technical glitch.
I know. I don't know why we didn't test it. Hey, what's it look like?
Hey, it can't be too hard, right? Hold the camera and start talking.
Go live. Might be good to have the tip. Turn your phone upright.
Oh yeah, that the bar behind us is really just our business research.
Yes, totally. Their excuse.
So for anyone that doesn't know, one of our businesses is actually a wine and liquor store. So we have to drink alcohol because it's part of our business.
Have to.
And our business would not go very well if we didn't drink alcohol.
I think it would just be fine if we didn't drink it.
I don't know. All that business research I did beforehand, I think that's what really set it apart.
Hey, there's Dean. Hey, Dean.
Hey, Dean. How's it going?
In the music biz, you teach guitar or piano or both? I can't remember. I think it's guitar.
I think it's guitar. And guys, feel free to post your websites up, and we'll take a look at them as well. All right, so we're going to jump over and get the slides ready. So we'll get started in a couple minutes.
Yay.
All right. So if you guys can just confirm in the chat if you guys can see the slides, and we'll get ready in about a minute.
Oh, I was right. Oh, headphone.
All right, perfect. Ashley can see the slides.
Yay!
All right, great. So we're at 8 o'clock, so we'll jump right in. We want to be respectful of your time. I know it's a Sunday night at 8 o'clock, at least for those on the East Coast. So
Hey, Kevin.
we'll go from there.
All right. So, welcome to the Startup Roadmap, our step-by-step guide to building your business. Oh, yes. Thank you. Tom's handing me the clicker. All right, guys. So we just want to let you know what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to walk you through the Startup Roadmap. And that's going to have the 5 phases of building your business in there. And that's just every step that we've kind of gone through and brought together as, here's what you should be doing and here's what you shouldn't be doing based on what phase you are in your business, what things you should be focusing on, some things you shouldn't. Obviously, it's hard to do that when you're first starting out. You want to jump in and do everything. And then what you'll kind of go through in each phase, and that's your time and your money invested, and then also some of the things you'll be feeling when you go through some of those phases, and then what you have to get to move on to the next phase. And then stick around to the end because we are going to have a live Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions that pop up during the webinar, feel free to type them in and we'll save those and go over them at the end. Or if you had any coming in and you want to post those up, that's fine as well.
All right, so before we get too far into this, just a couple things to help you get the best experience on this webinar. So first off, close any windows, any other apps that you have going on. 1, so that you can focus, and 2, so that the video doesn't buffer. If you guys are experiencing any buffer issues, let us know, but we test everything out and, knock on wood, everything should be good. Also, if you haven't seen, there's a chat window right below where this video is playing. So you can log into one of your social profiles on there and communicate, as well as on the bottom right of that, there's a little box with an arrow where you can pop that out and actually put it right next to the video. So that way you can chat and see the video at the same time. And then finally, if the video is looking a little bit blurry, there's a little gear icon on the actual video, and you can click that and change the quality to 720p, which should clear up a lot of that.
All right, so I just want to know if you guys have ever had any of these thoughts. And if you had, as I'm going through them, if you've had them, just kind of type in, yes, that's been me, or I've totally thought that at one point. First one, I'm ready to build my business, but I'm not sure where to start. This was Tom, the man of a million ideas.
This was me originally, and then afterwards I said, well, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to jump in and go.
Yeah, he went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Or how about, I wish running a business came with a how-to manual. This one was courtesy of me, myself, and I, when we started our wine and liquor store, and Tom handed it over to me. It was like, hey, I need some help. And I was like, what?
Yeah, well, and actually, I think every time we've started a business, it's been one of the things we've looked at, because even though you start a business the first time, there's so many steps that you go through that even when we started our second business, I was like, man, I wish I would have wrote all those things down or had something else that I could go off of so I have all the right steps.
Mm-hmm. Or lastly, how do I know if I'm really ready to lead the entrepreneur life? That was no, still not ready. Doing it, still not ready.
Yeah, and this is when I think people forget or really underestimate, because being an entrepreneur is much different than being an employee. And I don't think people realize all of the other stuff that comes with being an entrepreneur until they get into it.
And so we just made a rookie mistake. We totally forgot to introduce ourselves because I think we just assumed everyone knew who we were. But we are your hosts, Tom and Ariana Sylvester. We are married. We have worked together running these businesses that we own for, oh gosh, how many years now? 8, 9, somewhere around there. And we have 2 beautiful children. I know we're biased, but they're so cute. And this is the reason we do all the crazy stuff that we do for these guys. And what we do is run 3 businesses together. The first was our real estate business. We buy rundown homes and we rent them out. We improve them and rent them out. And then we decided to open a wine and liquor store in one of the buildings that was purchased by our real estate business. So we've been running that for almost 4 years now. And after opening those two businesses, we had a lot of people come to us that were interested in like how the heck we were doing that. Like, how are you married and running businesses together and not at each other's throats? And now you have kids and you're doing all this stuff. And so that's kind of where Serial Startups was born. And it's culminating with us passing on all of the things that we've learned and the tips and the tricks and, just those real life stories with everyone. And then lastly, you'll notice that little lean agile proficiency down there. That's because Tom is a ninja in project management. So I just had to add that in there because he brought all of that knowledge together and is kind of infusing it into a more small business area.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll tie in a lot of that as we go. And the other thing we'll talk about is as we talk about each of the phases, we'll give you guys a little bit of the experience that we had in each of our businesses and how we went through that phase and either what worked or what didn't work. All right, so here is the startup roadmap. And as we said, there's 5 phases to it. So if we look at the first phase, we call this the foundation. So this is basically, as you could guess, all of the things you need to do to set your business up. You got to lay that solid foundation so you can build the business on top of that. Once you've set the foundation, you've actually opened your business, then you get into this operations phase. And this is where most entrepreneurs end up being at, pretty quickly because they have their idea, they start their business, and then they start running it. Phase 3 is really where every entrepreneur wants to get to, and that is being successful with your business. So early on, you want to define what that success looks like. And then phase 2 is really continuing to work and grow your business to get to that point. And then phase 3 is now saying, well, now that I've been successful, well, what do I do with this business? And this is a point a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize until they get there, that they never had really planned for what was their exit strategy or why were they starting this business? What were they going to do after that? And then in some cases, if an entrepreneur wants to take that business to the next level to really grow it, then they'll go on to scaling it. And to be honest, I was going to say most of the entrepreneurs we work with never decide to get to this phase because they realize that the bigger they grow a business, the more that comes with that. So it's not always about necessarily increasing revenue or increasing employees. You may be success to you may mean getting to a certain point and then being able to get some of your time back.
Yes.
So, we'll dive into that a little bit more. But
you forgot a phase.
I was gonna say, you may notice that we said there's 5 phases, and I've only talked about 4. And that's because we have phase 0, which we call the prequel. And this is the phase that we find just about every entrepreneur misses, and it causes one of the biggest issues when we have entrepreneurs come to us looking for coaching, or when we look at businesses that are out there struggling and reach out to us for help.
Definitely. All right. Talk to us about the big picture.
Okay. So the big picture is what we put together to help put the roadmap in context. So if you see, we kind of start out with this blank canvas, and along the left-hand side is the revenue growth that you're looking for the business to do. So obviously when you start out, you're not going to have any revenue, and then you're looking to grow that. Along the bottom is a strategy that we use anytime we're going through any of our steps, where we say we got to focus on 4 things. First, who are the right people? And if you're the entrepreneur, it starts with you. Then what's the strategy? What are the objective that you're trying to go through with that step? Third, once you know the objective, what is the process that you have to go through in order to get the objective? And then 4, what tools can you use to actually help support that? So phase 0 is the prequel, and we'll dive deeper into this, but this really isn't even talking about the business at all. The prequel is all focused on you as the individual. So what do you want your lifestyle to look like? Where are you at today? What are some of the traits or behaviors that you have that may or may not help you as an entrepreneur? What do you want your roadmap to look like, and how you go from where you're at today to get to your desired lifestyle? And then ultimately, do you have the knowledge and support from friends and family to actually make the business successful? Phase 1 is the foundation. So as we said, this is where we're going to walk through all the stuff that actually figure out your idea, narrow it down, and figure out if it's going to be valid, set up your business, figure out how you're going to get the funding, and then ultimately launch and open it. And then by the time we get to phase 2, it's no longer really step by step, But now you're getting into your operating model. So how do you run your business? And this is an ongoing cycle where you're going from trying to get to break even ultimately to increasing your profitability. As we said, phase three is the success. So now you kind of figure out what are your next steps now that you've built that successful business. And then finally, phase four is scale. So now if you do decide that you want to go from a small business to maybe a medium-sized business, what are some of the things that you're going to have to change in order to make that transition?
All right, so let's jump in and talk about phase zero, the prequel. So what is phase zero?
So going a little bit deeper in what we talked about a second ago, this is really everything before you start a business. So when you're in the prequel, the first thing you're going to look at is really what do you want your life to look like? And a popular term for this is your lifestyle design.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we find with a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's kind of funny, we've seen some and we've worked with some very successful entrepreneurs that haven't been happy. And what we found is that they weren't happy because even though they were successful with their business didn't necessarily align with the lifestyle they were looking to live.
Mm-hmm.
So by pointing that out at the beginning and being clear on what that lifestyle looks like, it allows you to then be intentional with the steps you take in your business and even what type of business you start. Next up, we have starting point clarity. So we're amazed, and I say that, but we actually didn't do this ourselves, at how many people
Disclaimer.
don't really know where they're at, financially, with their time before they go to start a business. And, if you've started a business, you know that time and money are the two biggest assets that you're going to have to invest. And if you don't know how much you have to invest now, it's going to be a challenge to actually start that business and get it going. From there, this is where we turn and look at ourselves. So being an entrepreneur, there's certain personality traits, certain behaviors that really help. And there's some that may be weaknesses or may not help. So by really taking a look and doing some different behavioral assessments, you can kind of figure out, are you really set up to be successful as an entrepreneur? And what are the strengths and weaknesses that you might have going into that so that you can be aware of them and make that decision with, eyes wide open.
Or if you have a partner or a spouse that you're planning on working with, this is definitely a good one to do together so that you both know what each other has going into it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a key point. Where'd that one come from?
Experience.
All right. So then after you've gone through those things, this is the point where we'd like to have entrepreneurs actually take a look at all of that and make a decision. Do you have enough time and money available in order to start a business? Are you in a good financial place, or
mental?
Maybe, yeah, are you in a
good mental place?
Are you in a good mental place? And do you really understand, what you're trying to achieve by starting that business? So this is the point where we really ask people to think about it, because from here on out, it's going to be a lot of work. Then if people have decided to go forward, this is where we say, okay, well, how do you go from your starting point to that lifestyle that you're looking to get? So part of this is, making the incremental steps or the incremental goals, as well as then saying, what does your life look like at those points so that you can be intentional about the actions that you're taking. And then and then finally, and this is a big one, establishing support mechanisms. So before you actually go out and look to start the business, you want to make sure that you have the right support structures in place, because this is going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have ups and downs as you go through this. So you want to make sure that, if you don't have supportive friends and family, that you're reaching out to either other successful entrepreneurs or other people that are at the same point as you, so that they can help support and guide you as you go through those ups and downs.
All right. So a lot of people are going to want to know, how do I know if this is the phase that I should start in? Well, there's some things you can think about.
All right. So in general, if you don't have a business yet, this is the phase you're going to start in. And, I know a lot of people are going to want to skip this phase, but it's so important to really take a little bit of time and just make sure that, you have all of this stuff set up so that you can go into starting a business, in a good frame of mind. You also want to go to this phase if you haven't figured out your why. And this is really your reason for wanting to start a business. Far too many people skip over this, and these are also the people that end up quitting when they run into their first challenge. So, really taking time to figure out why you want to do this is then going to help you get past some of those challenges that you're going to face along the way.
And for some people that have started a business but are feeling very challenged, maybe you haven't defined your why like you thought you did, and this would be a good thing to go back and do.
Yeah, exactly. So, you also may want to look at this, even if you're at a later phase. If you haven't figured out what your personal lifestyle and goals are that you want to achieve from starting the business.
Mhm.
We've found a lot of people that they're just kind of in the grind and running their business, and what really helps them is taking a step back and saying, well, why am I doing this, what am I trying to achieve, and that reinvigorates them. So you also want to step back to this phase if you don't really have a handle on your time and money. So if you've got a lot of debt, if you don't know how much money comes in and goes out each month, if it seems like the end of every day or end of every week, you don't have enough time to work either on your business, or you don't know how you're going to free up time to work on a business, there's a lot of stuff here that can really help you to make sure that you understand where that time and money is going and how you can free up some of that.
And lastly,
And finally, if you're working a job and you just know that there's something more for you, you're not a good fit for either your job or your role, or you just realize that you're not going to be able to be an employee for, 45 years of your life until you're 65 and retire. And that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs come in, is they realize that there's something more for them beyond just, the job they have now.
oh, we forgot one. This one's important too. If you have a business but you feel so alone, you don't have any support from other entrepreneurs, your family and friends don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, everyone thinks you should just go back and get a regular job. There's a lot of people out there that we know experience this one, so it might be good to go back to the prequel and just get those established support mechanisms. All right, so what can I expect in this phase, Tom?
All right. So this phase tends to last about 1 to 3 months. And a lot of that depends on how much time you have available to kind of go through some of these steps. The other thing it depends on is, how much of a handle you have on, let's say, your finances and where your time goes. Because we've worked with a lot of people that really just don't know, either even how much debt they have, how much money they typically have left after all their bills are paid. So if you don't know some of that, it's going to take a little bit longer. There's really not going to be a big financial investment here because you're not actually starting your business. The biggest investment is typically in some of those personality tests, just to help you figure out a little bit more about yourself. So during this time, a couple things that you may feel or experience is you may really struggle to define your goals and your vision and your lifestyle. And a lot of this is because people have never really sat down and said, what am I doing all this for? Kind of like that whole, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
Sometimes we just get so much into the grind of work where we don't take a step back and say, well, what am I working towards? And what are some of those major goals that I want to achieve? You may also feel like you've been punched in the gut when you review your personal finances.
This one is based on personal experience.
Yeah. And a lot of this is because once again, I mean, we got into a lot of debt very young. We went to college and we came out with a lot of student loans. We instantly went and, bought new vehicles. We bought a house. We had some other expenses. And before we knew it, we were 21, 22, and we had over $200,000 in debt. And it wasn't until we really sat down and kind of put everything on the table and said, oh my gosh, how are we going to get out of this? So when you do kind of, pull everything together and look at your personal financial statement, it may be a little bit overwhelming. But know that you can get through that. I mean, everyone's gotten into it, and you just got to work your way out of it. You may also feel like you don't have time. I mean, as you saw with us, so we're parents, we have 2 kids. We've
Three
got we have
businesses.
3 businesses. Everyone's coming from their own situation, and the key thing is everyone has the same amount of time in your day. It's just really looking at how you spend it. So one of the things that we tend to do with a lot of people is say, well, let's kind of track your time and really see where it goes, and then make sure that you're being intentional with the activities you're doing versus what you said your goals were. And that's a big part of why you got to lay out those goals, because otherwise it's very tough to figure out, are you spending your time in the best areas? You also may experience resistance from friends and family. And this is probably one of the biggest things that kills people, is because we can give people all the steps you need to start a business. But if you don't have that support, and if you have the people around you that are, dragging you down or telling you it's not a good idea, it's very challenging to get past that, especially if it's people close to you. And even in this phase, you're going to go through some ups and downs. So you're going to have times when you look at something and you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good. This is definitely the right path. And then you might have some times where, you go through your finances or one of those personality assessments and you say, well, I don't really know if I'm up for this. So you're going to have those experiences up and down. And that's really the life of an entrepreneur. It's a roller coaster ride. And, finally, you're going to get excited once you kind of figure out what your ideal lifestyle looks like. Because a lot of people haven't really looked to the future and said, what do I want things to be? And once you do that, you kind of see that vision. It's like, yeah, I could make that happen.
All right. So we're just going to give you an example here. What did our prequel phase look like? And as we mentioned before, we skipped it.
Yeah, we did. And a lot of this was because our personalities are very different. And essentially, I knew I wanted to start a business. Ariana, not so much. So what I ended up doing was trying to start a business. She said no. Trying to start a business. She said no. So what I ended up doing was going to one of those real estate classes that you hear on the radio. Fast forward, I spent $15,000 on a credit card and bought some training courses, and I didn't tell her any of that.
Yeah. Not your best option.
No, but this is why this phase is so important, because I immediately jumped into starting the business before I actually stepped back and before we had conversations and said, well, what do we want our lives to look like? And then how can we get there? And if we would have had a lot of those conversations early on, it would have saved a lot of the stress and difficult conversations that we end up having later on.
Yeah. And I mean, we see this happen a lot. There's a lot of people out there that just, they're like Tom and they go off and start a business, and then they have someone like me, and it just causes that stress between your relationships with people. And if you sit down and take a look at things before you do that, then it relieves some of that ahead of time. All right. So maybe you've done all this stuff. Awesome. You rock. What's next? Phase 1, the foundation.
All right. So this is where we actually get into, laying the foundation for your business. So we're going to start here with really brainstorming your business ideas. So you might have an idea right now, but if not, you want to go through and really get a whole collection of potential ideas you could start. So, a lot of people say, well, what's your passion? Well, that's just one piece of this. So you also want to look at, what are you good at? What skills do you have? What do other people come and ask you for? So there's a whole bunch of different ways to brainstorm ideas. And one of the things here is you don't want to just have one idea, because in the next step we get to, if it ends up that idea isn't that great, you want to have other ideas that you can test as well, which then leads into narrowing down and validating your business idea. So this is probably the second biggest issue that we see business owners run into, is they come up with what they think is this great idea, but they never actually go and narrow it down and validate it. And then what happens is they take all the other steps and they start the business and they struggle. They don't get the sales that they're looking for. They work really hard, but they're not seeing the results. And ultimately it came down because they didn't spend the time validating the idea before they went and started the business. So once you've gone through and validated the idea, then you want to figure out, what business model do you want to do? So there's a lot of different business models out there where you could actually, sell something directly to people. You could sell someone else's product and get a commission or an affiliate off of that. You could be a service-based business. You could be a product-based business. So there's a lot of different options for, once you understand, who you're targeting and what sort of products or what sort of problems they have, on how you can actually deliver that to them. Next, you actually want to go through set up your business. Now, this is where a lot of people either jump to immediately or they skip over certain steps. So this is things like setting up a separate bank account for your business. You don't want to commingle your personal funds, with your bank account. Then you also want to go through and make sure you're setting up the right business entity. You want to make sure you have the right insurance. So all that foundational stuff that may seem boring, but is so important, especially to make sure that later on you're not going to run into issues. And you want to make sure you understand, how much is it going to cost to start your business. So you want to go figure out all of your startup funds, and then make sure that you understand how you're actually going to get the money to start that. Are you going to fund it yourself? Are you going to get it from a bank? Are you going to get it from an investor? Or are you going to go with another option? Finally, you want to plan your launch. So what does it actually mean to open your business? So in some cases, you may not have a lot of stuff and you can just open right away. In other cases, like if you have a physical location, you may have to go secure that location, get furniture and equipment, get inventory. So whatever that means for your business, you want to plan that out. And then ultimately you want to get to the point where you're launching. You're actually opening your doors for business, or, let's say you don't have a physical location, you may be opening your website and opening your business so people can buy from you.
All right. So who is this phase for?
All right. So this phase is for anyone that hasn't selected a business to start yet. Obviously, if you haven't started a business yet, this is a great phase for you to get in and get those ideas. This is also for someone that has a lot of different ideas and is thinking of starting different businesses or doesn't know how to narrow those down. If you've tried to launch a business and you haven't had the success you like, it's likely that you missed one of the key steps of this phase, and it's good to go back through, especially with that validation. This is also good if you haven't formally launched your business or really opened the doors yet. So if you're in those planning phases, this is a good phase for you. And if you haven't, or if you've launched your business, but you haven't really closed all of the loops, so maybe you haven't incorporated, maybe you haven't got your right insurance yet. So basically, you want to make sure that you've gotten all those pieces. So if you haven't, you just want to take a step back, go through those, and make sure you took care of all the bottom line stuff that you need to.
So what can we expect in this phase, Tom? I know we talked about this before.
Yeah, so with this one, you're still going step by step. So the typical duration for people in this phase is somewhere from 3 to 6 months. Now, if you're doing, say, a service-based business where you're just going to go out and start working, maybe it's not going to take as long. But if you're going to create a physical store or something that requires a lot more work, it could take a little bit longer. So typical time investment could be 100 to 800 hours. Revenue in this phase, typically this phase isn't about making revenue, but one of the things you'll see as you go through and validate your business idea, one of the options you have there is actually to pre-sell whatever product or service you're going to do. So a lot of people have heard of Kickstarter, and that's essentially what Kickstarter is. You're going to say, hey, this is a product we're thinking about building. If you give us money for it, then we'll go and build it. So you actually could get some revenue during this phase by pre-starting and by validating your idea. And then finally, the financial investment. I mean, it could range. Some people can start businesses very cheap, especially if you're just freelancing or doing a service business.
Mm-hmm.
Some businesses could be very expensive to start, and it could even go beyond, 20,000.
Online versus offline.
Absolutely, that's a big difference. Yep. So what you may feel or experience during this is you may want to skip over some of the research steps. And this, the research is typically pretty boring, but it's critical that you make sure you understand, who your customers are, what problems they have, what the right solutions are, how you're actually going to get in front of your customers, what the right price points are. So there's a lot of information that if you're not taking the time up front, it could cause you issues later on.
Definitely.
This one, near and dear to my heart. So you come home, especially as an entrepreneur, you have this great idea. And then when you go through and actually do some of the research on it, you may find out that it's not so great. And that could be that's probably the punch in the gut for this phase. Realizing that your great ideas may not be so great. And that's why when you're brainstorming on ideas, you want to have a lot of ideas out there. So if one doesn't turn out to be great, maybe another one will. You also may have doubts and fears about actually launching your business. So even if you've done all the research, even if all signs are pointing to yes, this is likely new territory for you. Like we said before, you may have friends or family that aren't supporting you. So when you launch your business, there's going to be, some fear in there, and just realize that every entrepreneur has this.
Yes. And friends and family around those entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And, you may get frustrated or really annoyed with all of the foundational stuff you have to do. So it can be complicated to figure out what insurance do I really need? What business structure do I need? How do I find out what licenses I need for my state? So it can get a little overwhelming. And part of this too is where you really want to reach out to an attorney or an accountant to help you, especially with some of that more complicated stuff. And you may struggle to find funding for your business. So when I started our first business, our real estate one, I was young, I didn't have a track record, and actually we didn't have banks that wanted to give us money. So as you start your business, it may be a little struggle to figure out, how do I get money to start? And finally, this is what we're doing it for. Once you've validated your idea, especially if you've talked to customers, and especially if they're already going to pay you before you've created it, you're really going to get excited because this is where you figure out, hey, people do need the service and I could actually start a business with it.
So our foundation, not too bad. Not as bad as the prequel. We had foundations.
Yeah. Well, and I think if we look at our foundations, the businesses that we still have were the ones where we really went through the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that failed and that we don't have anymore, it's where I think we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah.
So if we look at like our wine and liquor store, obviously spent a lot of money. There's a lot of startup costs to get that store going. So we did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people. We visited a lot of stores.
We put a lot more into that one.
Yep. Drank a lot of wine and liquor just to make sure it would all work out well. But yeah, so, and even with this business, so we had people reach out to us and ask us to do coaching and start this business. So we get to talk to a lot of actual entrepreneurs before we ever started coaching them. So it wasn't like I just came up with this idea. We were actually getting demand from other people.
Actually, it's me too. I come up with new ideas at least once an hour.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in Evernote, we've got an idea notebook, and it's just like, yep, let's throw them there.
Not we, you have an idea notebook.
Well, we have an idea notebook. I just populate it.
All right. So if you're super awesome, you could say, yep, I did that stuff too. What's next? Next is phase 2, your operations phase.
Yep. So this is where we stop going step by step and we get into really a cyclical model. And this is really the operating model for your business. So if you look at, what are the 5 main things or main areas that you want to focus on, it all starts really with your strategy and planning. So we have, this is where, that lean and agile ninja comment from Ariana comes in. I spent a lot of time with companies, helping them become more efficient and really cutting out the waste in their processes so they can increase their productivity and increase the value they deliver to their customers. So a lot of what this comes around to is planning on various levels and then making sure that you're executing in small chunks towards those plans. So when we work with organizations, what we do is have them plan out, a couple of years out and then really work backwards to say, well, if this is what you want to achieve in 3 years, okay, what does that look like in 1 year? And if this is what you want to achieve in 1 year, what does that look like quarter by quarter? And then how do you make sure that you're checking in monthly, weekly, and even daily to make sure that the activities you're doing are going to get you there? So we really focus on strategy and planning to really help guide you in your business. What that then means is once you plan things out, you're going to focus on what products or services or what do I have to change in my products or services based on the planning and based on what I'm seeing in my marketplace. From there, what do I have to adjust with my sales and marketing in order to reach some of my goals? So if you want to increase the number of customers you have or increase the number of, packages that you sell, that's going to require doing some marketing and then also focusing on sales. You're also going to need eventually to have a team. So it may be just you to start out, or you may start out with a team. But as you're doing your planning and you're saying, well, we need to, create this new product feature, or we need to do this marketing campaign, what you're going to realize is that you need to start hiring some of that out. And it could be just outsourcing to an admin or a virtual assistant, or it may actually be hiring someone onto your team.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the one people hate, but
it's a boring one.
It's such a critical one, is really making sure that you have your accounting, your books in order, and you understand how to read your financial statements so that as you're building your business, you can make sure that the money's coming in, the ratios are right, and that you're making good decisions that are going to drive your business forward. So as we go through this, like we said, it's intentionally a circle because you're going to continue going through and looking at each of these categories as you're planning out your business and what you're going to do next. And then really the reason that those financial numbers are important is because you want to make sure that you're increasing not only the revenue that you're making from selling, but also the profitability that you're making.
All right. So phase 2, who is it for and what can we expect in this phase? These ones are a bit more simple.
Yep.
You are currently running your business and actively selling something. You need additional structure around your operations. Maybe you have some things that you can maybe shave some time off or save some money on. And you are growing your business with hiring or delegating tasks.
And that second one, the additional structure and operations, that's what we find a lot of people come to us with.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a business, it's running, but they're really just struggling because they're working a lot and, they're not hiring or delegating a lot of that out. And that's where I think this model really helps out people. So what can you expect during this phase? So businesses, if you're doing well, hopefully you're going to be,
Years.
yeah, you're going to be in business for years. Um, Time investment. I mean, this is one thing I don't think a lot of people who leave a job and just think about this entrepreneurial lifestyle, you're going to work at least as much as a full-time job and likely a lot more. So especially when you first start your business, it's not uncommon to work 80-hour weeks. And then, hopefully as time goes on, you're able to delegate and outsource some of those things so you can get back to a more normal schedule.
Hmm.
Your financial investment varies here. A lot of this depends on your business. One of the things that you hope, though, is that you planned your startup cost right and that the business is profitable so that as time goes on, you're not having to put your personal funds in there.
Hmm.
And then once again, your revenue is really going to vary based on your industry, your type of business, and then how fast you're trying to grow.
What did our operations phase look like?
All right. So
A lot of work.
I was going to say early on, we were doing everything. And, it got stressful because we were working full-time jobs. And then we were really starting like our real estate business on the weekends. So at night we were doing the paperwork and stuff. And on the weekends we were literally like tearing out drywall, putting floors in. So the only reason we're able to have the 3 businesses we do now is because we continuously looked at all of our processes. We made intentional plans on how we were going to grow and how we were going to outsource. And then we were able to get people to do a lot of the work in those businesses so we could get our time back.
Yep. And also for the wine and liquor store, that was a lot of work for operations to get started because it was just so much going on, so much we had to take care of, and so much that we were responsible for that first year or two. And it was a lot.
Yeah, well, and especially when you get into a retail store like that, you're dealing with inventory. The market or the industry we were in was very, very regulated. So, we had certain things we had to do where we could only buy alcohol from certain vendors. We had to be careful and make sure that we were IDing people and not running into issues there, which we actually did run into an issue. But there's just a lot to look at. And this is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs get overwhelmed because they don't realize all the things you have to do just to run your business. So like we said, the accounting, the books, the sales and marketing, running your numbers, making sure you're planning things out. If you're hiring people, there's a lot of stuff to it.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of this gets lost too because people see such a disconnect between offline and online businesses, but it really is the same. If you're an online business owner, you still have to do some of this stuff. There's just a lot that don't, and then it causes problems later on. I mean, some of it's a little bit easier, but a lot of it's the same. It's the same foundation. So that's why we talk about it all together.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because I think a lot of the appeal of online business and the internet's great. It's given so much opportunity. Part of the challenge with that though is that a lot of people jump in and start their business and start making money, but they haven't actually taken care of some of the foundational stuff or even these operational pieces. So I mean, we've had multiple people that have come to us for coaching that haven't even had a separate bank account. So they're commingling their funds, which is a huge no-no, and the IRS could come after them, not only for back taxes, but also for penalties for not separating things out. So there's some of these things that especially online entrepreneurs need to focus on because, it's not talked about in a lot of the courses that you buy, but it could really come back to bite you, if you're not looking at it.
All right. So phase 3, this is the phase everyone likes, the success phase. What is it?
Absolutely. So success phase is really when your business gets to a point where it's profitable and you want to do something else with it. So it's really for someone who's making good money, but they might be burned out and they may want to, start reducing the amount of time that they're working in their business. This is also for people who've achieved their goal and they're thinking, what's next? What do I do beyond this? It's also for someone that might be looking to sell their business. So, you may have worked long enough in it. You may want to take the money and do something else. And it's also for people that are looking to go beyond just a small business. So a lot of, startup businesses start out small, but some really want to scale up and really want to make more money, have a bigger impact. And there's a very big difference between a small startup business with, let's say, 1 to 10 employees, and then one that grows beyond that.
Yep. So,
and finally, the last one is I'm thinking of starting another business. And this is one of the big reasons we talk about this is we find so many entrepreneurs that try to start multiple businesses And I mean, we we did this as well.
We also, yeah, we did that.
But the thing is, you should really focus on one business and getting it to this point before you try doing another one. Because if you're trying to do two businesses at once, you're basically splitting your focus and your energy and your effort, and neither business is going to have the success that it should.
All right. So what can we expect in phase 3?
All right. So on average, we'll say 5 years for business. It really depends. Some businesses,
one.
they're looking to
Could be
exit
5.
sooner. Some, they're in business 20 or 30 years and they're doing everything. So it really depends. Time investment when we're looking at this phase is 20 to 80 hours a week. Part of it is some people may want to actually get some of their time back and enjoy it. Some people may still be working really hard at this point, and the focus is really how do we get away from the 80 hours and back down to a more reasonable schedule. Financial investment varies, but at this point, your business is profitable, so you shouldn't be putting money into it. You should really be taking money out of it. And then your revenue can vary as well. So a couple other things is you may actually struggle to reduce the involvement in your business.
It's very difficult. I say this from experience.
Yeah. Well, hiring in general is difficult. And then a lot of the emotional pieces is, we always think that we're the only one that can do it, or no one's going to do it as good as us.
Or you don't want to give up the control because you've been doing it for so long.
Absolutely. So it's a challenge to, really figure out what are all the things you do, and then how do you train someone else to do them. But I promise you, if you can hire other people to do these things and they get done without you having to do it, and with just some supervision, it's a beautiful feeling. If you're going to sell your business, you may actually struggle mentally because you've put the blood, sweat, and tears into building this business. It's your baby, and trying to sell it. Now, the thought of someone else taking over and making decisions that might go against what you thought could be a challenge. The other thing too, a lot of people don't realize is that in order to sell your business, it has to be, what we'll call saleable. So if you're involved in your business, or if you manage a lot of the day-to-day stuff, you likely can't sell your business. It's probably not worth anything, even if we're bringing in good money, because without you being in the business, it may just fall apart.
Yeah.
And then you actually may be afraid to scale your business because, like we said, going from a small business up to a medium business, it's a whole new ball game, and it's going to require more money. And when you had a small business, you were directly working with your team. As you scale it beyond that, you're really now putting managers in place, and you're having to operate a lot more on the business and on growth instead of on the day-to-day operations.
All right. So what did our success phase look like? Ashley says, I'm in trouble with my current business then because I am the business.
All right. Well, that's an okay thing for now. The key thing is looking ahead and saying, well, in a couple of years, what's my goal? What do I want to get to? And then figuring out what pieces can you outsource, and some of it, if you are the business and you're not looking to sell, that may not be a bad thing. But there's definitely strategies as you grow that you can employ so that it's not you doing everything.
Yes.
So what our success look like? So 2 of our businesses right now operate without much involvement from us day to day.
Correct. I feel kind of bad sometimes because I don't talk to my employees that often at the wine and liquor store.
Yeah, well, we've set that up intentionally. I mean, we went from having to work there every day to now we've got the right system set up. We've got a great set of staff for both our real estate business and our wine and liquor store that we talk to them at the right points in time. And then, we're letting those things run, and we're really working on the businesses with those. Now, with our coaching business, this is still a business that we work in and we operate every day. So as we continue to grow this business and work towards that success, we'll be looking at how do we increase our profitability, how do we increase our operations, and how do we continue getting more and more people and really helping those people out with their business.
All right. So phase 4 is the scale phase, which we won't talk too long about this one because, like we said before, not many entrepreneurs want to do this phase where they grow from small business to large or medium size. This is, for specific reasons.
Yeah. So with this, who's it for? Like Ariane said, anyone that wants to grow beyond just being a small business. Couple things of what to expect. Duration for this is many years. So it takes a long time to really, hire the right people, get the right amount of money, and then enter really into a new market and start competing with new competitors. Time investment, 40 to 80 hours a week.
Many
It
years.
it could yes, many years. It could actually be a lot more because you're in a whole new ball game. There's a lot more to learn. Financial investment, now we start getting into a lot bigger numbers because as you would hire people, you're going to be hiring, leaders and managers, and they're going to demand higher salaries than the people that were just operating the business day to day. You're also going to have to likely get
More equipment,
more
more
equipment, bigger
employees.
location, all of those types of things. Yep. And then finally, your revenue varies. You'll likely be increasing your revenue as you do this, but you may actually be decreasing your profit as you go through some of this growth.
So what did our scale phase look like?
So we actually haven't had a scale
Nope.
phase. So intentionally, we've set up each of our businesses so that they get to a certain point. And then what's more important for us than scaling them is really getting them to a healthy point and then outsourcing them so we can get our time back.
Mhm.
Because for us, that's the most important piece. So we've consulted on a lot of companies with this, but we personally haven't taken any of our businesses to that point.
Nope, not our goals. All right, so we know there was a lot to take in. Sorry about that. We would just wanted to share the whole roadmap with you. So for anyone who's on, what phase do you most likely identify yourself with?
Yeah, so type that in the chat box. And what's interesting here, as you guys are typing, is a lot of people tend to be across multiple phases.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to find that most people are operating their business, but they're like, well, I probably missed some stuff in the prequel. I probably can, get a little bit better with my personal finances.
I probably don't do
support.
things that I should have done in the foundation.
Yep. Oh, maybe I should go back and get this insurance that I never looked at before.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. So Ashley says, I kind of want to go back to the prequel. And yeah, that's one of the big things.
It's so huge. The multi-phase, it's so hard. That's why I feel like you need a manual, because there is nothing out there telling you, okay, well, you're starting a business, here's the things you should do first, and then here's the things that you should move on to for your next steps. Like, there's nothing out there. So you're just kind of galloping along, and okay, well, I got to go get a website, and I got to get my LLC filed with the government, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And a lot of times all the tasks we're doing are so disjointed and just not in the right order. It makes stuff so much more stressful for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, a big part of that, I think, for people in multi-phases, because it's the majority of people, unless they followed a roadmap like this, is you're continuing to operate. And you really want to focus on that planning and strategy that we talked about, but then looking back at the previous phases and kind of saying, are there a couple things that I should incorporate in to make sure that I'm filling some of the gaps that maybe I missed the first time?
Mm-hmm. All right. So now that we're kind of coming to a little bit of a close here, I want to know one new piece of knowledge that you learned from our class today. Could be anything. It doesn't have to be a large piece. It could be something tiny. We just want to know.
Yeah, and one of the things too, just if you're on the webinar, or if you're really going to any training in the future, a lot of what you can do is you're going to pick up certain things from class, but what's really nice is asking other people what they picked up, because oftentimes what they picked up will be something that you missed or you didn't think about, and by talking to a lot of different people and seeing what they got out of it, you actually get more out of class.
All right. So do you feel like your business would benefit from having its very own roadmap, having that step-by-step guide all the way from phase 0 on through phase 4?
Yeah, talking to me personally, absolutely.
Yes, Tom, do you feel?
Well, I mean, I just remember when, we started the real estate business and we had that going pretty well. And then we were starting the wine and liquor store. And, I was getting up at like 2 a.m. and I was trying to plan out our business. I was trying to do the business planning, figuring out what licenses I needed. I was trying to figure out how to do market research. I knew I had to go to the bank and I had to do a pitch to them to get some of the funding. And it was just really overwhelming. Like, I feel like I spent so much time where if I had someone that kind of said, first do this, then do this, don't do this yet, that's like 5 steps ahead, that would have saved me a lot of time and frustration.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you feel more confidence if you had guidance and support while building your business? Tom, I'm going to direct this at you again.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest challenges I had early on was I was kind of hard-headed. I'm like, oh, I've read a book or I've done this thing. I know how to build a business.
No comment.
And yeah. But there's a big difference between reading something or listening to it on a podcast and then actually going out and experiencing it. And I think the biggest growth that we've seen in our businesses is when we've been around like-minded people, when we've had coaches or mentors that have guided us and they've been further along so they can help us get past some of those challenges. And then even just having supporting people, to bounce ideas off of or get feedback, or when we're kind of feeling down, or, when we get a fine because we messed up in business, of several $1,000s, just saying like, hey, this is part of the game. Get past it. You can't change it. What are you going to do going forward to make sure it doesn't happen again?
So we want to introduce to you our baby. Startup. Well, not really our child. We have 2 other children. This is our online baby.
Yep. So when we had a lot of people coming to us and asking how we built our businesses, we started answering a lot of those questions. And then what we realized was we're getting a lot of the same questions over and over again. So we actually did a whole bunch of market research. We talked to a lot of people and we came up with Startup Academy. So what is it? Essentially, it is everything we talked about tonight and more. So we have the business building roadmap. So this is a roadmap of step-by-step how to build your business. And each of these has step-by-step guides. We actually have action items for every step, along with videos and audios of us walking through what to focus on, what not to focus on, and then also providing worksheets at each step to help you fill in the information you need so that you can get past that step and move on to the next one. In addition, the roadmap is going to give you the steps you need, but some topics you're going to have to go much deeper on. So we also have training courses and a complete reference library. So anytime people say, I'm interested in this topic, whether it's business planning, whether it's how to understand their finances,
how to hire people,
we're building out and we're continuing to add more training courses on these specific business topics. And then we also have private community and forums. So one of the things we realized in our coaching business was we can only help so many people with one-on-one coaching. So what Startup Academy allows is a combination of training plus still direct access to us through these communities and forums. In addition, we also have other members in there as well. So not only are people getting feedback from us, they're getting feedback from other people in the community.
All right, so let's just run through who is it for and who isn't it for. Anyone who's looking to start a new business, maybe you need help with ideas, maybe you need help picking an idea, someone who has a business but maybe isn't happy with their sales or with how the business is running, someone who has a business but wants some of their time back because, man, it takes a lot of hours to run a business successfully these days. Anyone who isn't happy with their current job and maybe wants to try being their own boss. And, the go-getters, the motivated people out there, anyone that's willing to do whatever it takes.
All right. So with all that said, I think it's also important to call out who this isn't for, who's not really going to benefit.
We're not trying to be offensive.
So as we've said, really being an entrepreneur is a challenge. So people that don't want to put in the work, people that want to skip steps and not follow what they need to do, not put in the work to get what they need, this really isn't for them. This also isn't for people that make excuses and say that I can't. So, there's definitely ways to be realistic as you go through here. But, we've done this, we work with a lot of people that have done it. So it can happen, but it can't happen if you have a negative attitude. This also isn't for anyone that can't commit to following through. So one of the biggest things we've seen is successful entrepreneurs is able to make commitments or set goals and then be able to take the action to follow through with it. Mm-hmm. And the people that we've tried to coach, and we've found this out the hard way, a lot of times early on, we try to give free coaching away. And part of, why things didn't work was that people weren't committed when they weren't paying any money and they didn't have skin in the game.
Yep.
So if you can't commit, this is not for you.
And lastly,
and this is really not for people that have a business and have moved beyond a small startup. So there's definitely things that they can benefit from, such as that operational model. But this is really focused on people that haven't started a business yet or have a small business of anywhere from 1 to 10 employees.
All right. So hopefully that sounded good so far to you. We put a lot of work into it. What do you think something like that service, Startup Academy, would cost? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to move on and tell you exactly what is involved in a membership. So you would get the Startup Roadmap, which is that step-by-step guide, starting and growing your business. Everything that we just went through, those 5 phases, all the reading material, the videos, and the worksheets that go with them. You would get full access to any of the existing training courses that we already have in the academy, as well as, you would get to guide topics for future courses. So if you need help with something on your business, we would put that at a top priority to create a course for that to help you.
Yeah, and I actually think that's one of the coolest things about this is because we're building this out based on what our members need. Instead of our members having to go out and necessarily buy a new course, they can just let us know. And if it's something that's in our wheelhouse, and I mean, given our different businesses, we have quite a big wheelhouse.
Yeah.
We can create trainings for you on that, and it's going to save you a lot of money.
Private academy forums, like Tom mentioned, we're going to have this community of entrepreneurs that is basically there to support each other. We're there one-on-one. You have access to us 24 hours, well, maybe not 24 hours a day, but while we're awake, you have access to us to be answering your questions. And you also have other entrepreneurs to get feedback from. And it's just so helpful to have the support from people that are going through the things you're going through. And then, because we know not everyone's glued to their computer all day, we do have a private Facebook group as well. So if you're out and about, or if you're already in bed for the night and something pops into your brain, you don't have to go and open your computer. You can just jump into the Facebook group and say, hey guys, I need some feedback on something. An accountability program, because as Tom said, one of the toughest parts of being an entrepreneur is actually holding yourself accountable to do the work that you need to do, or finish the course that you purchased, along with the tracking logs, and possibly even finding an accountability partner. We're going to have monthly Q&A coaching calls. We've already had a couple of these, and our last one actually went really well, except we didn't record the audio.
Yep.
We had our own audio, but it didn't record all of our members' audio. So it was like us talking to thin air.
And that's why you got to be there live.
Awesome. You would have a founding member tag on your profile, because as one of our first out of however many 50 members or whatever, we would be a founding member forever as long as you have a membership. And you'd also have the price locked in as long as you stay a member. So even if our price for the membership were to go up in future months, your price would be locked in lifetime.
Yeah, and in fact, it is going to go up at the end of this week. So
yes,
when we did our pre-launch a couple months ago, we have a handful of members in there now. And then now we're really kind of opening it up. And then because we're increasing the amount of value we add, it will go up. So this is the lowest price it'll ever be.
Yeah. So if you just have a number in your head, throw it out there, because I'm just interested to see what you think something like this would normally cost. So type it in the chat box.
Yeah, I know just in the years of all the training that I've purchased, going back to grad school to get my master's in business management, the 15 grand on the real estate training, all the individual and other courses I bought, I can't even tell you the amount of money I've spent. That's a lot.
A lot. I don't want to think about it. So why did we go for a membership instead of a course?
Yeah, big part of this is many courses have a big promise and they don't deliver on the value. And part of that too is that people end up spending a lot of money on the courses, and that money could have been better used in their business or in their personal life. So we don't want to have a big course that doesn't deliver, where we can have a membership where people incrementally see that. Also, a lot of people buy courses, and for the course creator, there's really no accountability after someone's bought the course to help make sure that person gets through it. So a lot of people will spend money on a course, they'll do a little bit of it, and then they don't finish it. So it's not beneficial to them. The other thing is, a lot of people don't have the support and accountability, especially if they don't have entrepreneurs around them. So when you buy a course, basically like the same bullet point from before, you may not finish it because you might not have the support. Whereas with a membership site, with us being in there every day, we're there for the support and accountability to help you.
Tom will hound you till the end of the earth.
Absolutely. And this is really a personal thing for us. Is 50% of small businesses close within their first 5 years.
That is an insane statistic.
Yeah, and I mean, being entrepreneurs ourselves, seeing some of our failed businesses, and then also working and seeing a lot of failed entrepreneurs around us, we really want to, decrease that statistic. We want to see more businesses succeed, and we want to see more people able to really enjoy the lives they want from their business success, instead of running into a lot of the struggles and challenges that cause them to have to go out of business today. And, a big part of this, and this is a huge reason for the membership site, is not only does it allow people to get in for much cheaper than buying a full-on course, it also holds both us as the creators of it, as well as you as the member, accountable, because you're paying money every month, which means that you're going to waste that money if you don't show up, take action, and get results. Same thing for us. In order for us to continue to get members benefit, we have to make sure that we're delivering value that warrants having a payment every month.
So why us? Why would you want to sign on and take this journey with us? We will keep things real. We don't do the sugar coating thing. We are not afraid to ask you the hard questions that need to be asked to move you further along in your business, or maybe make you go backwards a little bit so that you can make your foundation better. As Tom said, it's near and dear to our heart. Our mission is to help other entrepreneurs succeed. I mean, that ratio or statistic of 50% of small businesses closing is insane to me. And we know so many family and friends that either have tried to run a small business at some point or are running one now. And it's so difficult. And if we can do anything to help people succeed, we want to do that. We wanted to create a community and a safe place for entrepreneurs so we can learn and share our everyday frustrations and success stories with each other and grow together. I mean, we are still growing as entrepreneurs. We run 3 businesses. They're 3 completely different businesses. So we're continuing to grow along with everyone else that we would be training. And then we've been together a long time for our young age. We've been together 14 years, married for 8 of those. We've started many businesses. Obviously, we are running 3, so a couple of those have ended. And then we're also raising 2 kids. So you are going to get real life experiences from real people. And then, as we mentioned before, Tom is a crazy, awesome, agile, lean project management ninja. Oh, sorry, the text got cut off. See, it's a ninja. You can't even see it.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
All right. So I know everyone wants to know, what is it going to cost me? We made you wait long enough to find out. And the truth is, it's only $29 a month to have a membership at Startup Academy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're thinking. No one typed any of their ideas of what it would cost in the box. So I don't know if you guys are thinking that's high or that's low, but just in case you don't think you can afford that, let's talk about some things that cost more than $29. Friday night movie date these days. If you get popcorn and drinks, it's ridiculous. I always go to a matinee. Night, I just did this last month. Painting with a Twist. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's awesome. You get to bring your own wine and drink while you paint, but that was more than $29. Mani-pedi for anyone out there who likes to pamper themselves. Super expensive. A few drinks at an expensive bar. Your cable bill. A pair of off-brand jeans, and I say this because that's what I wear. I do not shop in department stores, but even the off-brand jeans cost more than $30. A dinner for 2 at Applebee's, unless you maybe are very awesomely cool and you can do the 2 for $20 and get water. But other than that, it's going to be more than $30. A ticket to a football game. I just looked these up because Tom is a Bills fan, and those puppies are expensive. A pair of new running sneakers. A nice bottle of wine or liquor, or keep it simple, a daily $1 coffee for a month. If you're one of those people that prefers to drink somebody else's coffee and not have to make it at your own house, you buy one of those a day for an entire month, and that's going to be more than $30 a month. So also just a note, I know a lot of people out there might think about doing like one-on-one coaching contracts. And just for a perspective, we would charge $300 an hour for an hour of a business coaching call. And most people are much higher than that. So that's just a little bit perspective on that.
Yeah. And I mean, a big part of that and a big part of, we have clients at $300 an hour. So it's not that, to your point, we're overpriced, but a lot of people don't need one-on-one coaching.
Need one-on-one coaching.
I mean, it's a great benefit. Like, we've gotten a huge value when we've done one-on-one coaching with other people. But there's a lot of people that, maybe just need some training and maybe just need some support and guidance here and there, not enough to warrant necessarily having a one-on-one coach all the time.
Yep. And then most online courses, we know a lot of other entrepreneurs, and so we see, some of the stuff that they're putting out, and they are expensive if you're just buying a one-time course. I mean, it's anywhere from $5,000 to $500 to $5,000 to even $10,000 for some of these courses.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that kills me too is, some of these courses are great. Some of these courses, not so much. A lot of it, though, is when you're just starting out, you don't need to spend a lot of money. Like, to get a business going, you're looking at some of the basics, and you're looking at something like the roadmap we have. So, I mean, when I spent 15 grand on that real estate training,
it was a waste.
What I realized after the fact was I didn't even finish half the training. But what I went out, I did, and I took action. That's the most important thing. So just realize, whether you end up going with this course or whether you go with something else, realize you don't have to spend a ton of money to get started. And as your business is making money, then you can reinvest and buy some of these bigger courses that are really going to help take that business to the next level.
Yeah, and I mean, we have a couple people out there who like us. We've got some testimonials from some other business owners. One of them is Len, an entrepreneur friend of Tom's. What were you in a mastermind with Len?
Yep.
And we've got Gina Andrukolich Montesano as an owner at Game Training. We started her business. We helped her start 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, so you can see in there. So she literally, her business was in the garage. She was doing personal training sessions in her garage.
Yep.
And now,
she's
5 years later,
gym.
she's got her own gym. She's got a huge following of people, and she's going to do big things.
Yes. And then Bob Metcalf, actually a college friend of ours, he started his own podcast, and he was a great friend of Tom's, and he helped him launch it.
Yep.
All right. So after this, we won't mention again, I promise. We'll get to our Q&A session. But this is the last chance to join at this price, like Tom mentioned, because the price will go up on Friday, October 7th. So if you're interested in joining us in the Academy, it is $29 a month. Or if you want to pay for a full year, you would get an extra bonus of a free 30-minute coaching call with us one-on-one. And then we love action takers. So Tom, you want to tell them?
Yeah. So for anyone that signs up for Startup Academy from this call, what we're actually going to do is we're going to host a separate private group mastermind for anyone that joins. So we'll jump to our Q&A now. We'll do Q&A for about 15 minutes. And if anyone ends up joining during this call, you'll be eligible for that private mastermind with us. So like we said, we end up charging $300 an hour for coaching. So this is a way for you to not only get access to the Academy and us through there, but also an additional bonus of this mastermind where we'll coach you and help you one-on-one with your business.
I just made you talk really fast because I started the timer already.
All right. So if there's any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. And we have a couple that were submitted earlier for us.
Yeah, there was a couple people that couldn't make it to the webinar. So we'll go over one of theirs first. If anyone on the call has a question, go ahead and type it into the chat box and we'll get to those right away.
The recording, hopefully you're happy that we've answered your question.
Hopefully we were psychic.
Yeah. So one of the first questions we actually hit on a little bit earlier with Ashley, but the question was, I'm currently running my business, so I'm in phase 2, but I skipped over some of the earlier steps. Should I go back? And basic answer that we have for this is yes. I mean, it's not that you're going to stop running your business, but it's always good, and we always recommend people going back and basically saying, which part of the steps haven't you fully dove into, or maybe did you skip? And go back and make sure that you incorporate those in. So a good example we always use is insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes people don't get insurance, or they skip over, they don't get the right type. And especially once you're in and running your business, you have a little bit more liability, whether someone could sue you, or whether you could, something can happen and you could lose your business, lose some of your inventory.
Yep.
So it's a good thing to go back and really just look at all the steps and figure out, are there ones you missed that you should add in and go through.
That makes me think about the pizza place right around the corner, that there was another business next door to them that had a fire. And because they were in the same building, the pizza shop had to close for 6 months or something. Yeah. And they had to go through and do damages and all that. So, I mean, they lost 6 months worth of business, plus had to go and have an insurance claim to, hopefully they had insurance, but to fix, the whatever damage was caused by the fire.
Yeah. And that's a great example, because it wasn't even anything with their business. It was a business that was just right next door to them. Mm-hmm. And even the same thing, so what a lot of people don't realize is, let's say someone has an online business, so they don't have to worry about their neighbor starting a fire. But let's say
it's your neighbor next to your house.
Yeah. But let's say your website gets hacked, or it's down for an extended period of time. If your main source of revenue is sales from your website, and suddenly your website's down, that's something where if you had insurance, that could cover some of that for you. Mm-hmm. So, we're not insurance agents, but that's just giving an example of, why it might be a good thing to look into. And a lot of times insurance isn't nearly as expensive as you think, and it can really help out, if you get into one of those tough situations.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they have, because there's so many more people opening small businesses these days, they do have some, it's called, I think, small business option or small business something insurance. So it kind of covers a lot of that small stuff.
Yep. All right. So next question was, where does a business plan come into play with this model? So it's in the foundation. And then actually, for people that have gone through some of our previous stuff, one option is to create a business plan, like a traditional business plan. Another option that's out there, which is what we use and we actually use for starting this business and we coach a lot on, and this is where my lean and agile ninja stuff comes in, is there's these concepts out there of like a one-page business plan. So there's the lean canvas and there's also the business model canvas. So when we have people going through that, narrowing down their business idea and validating it, a lot of what we do is have them fill out these very simple one-page business plans that hit on the key aspects of research that you're going to do. And then from there, once they go through and validate it, some businesses are fine and they don't need a more traditional business plan, especially if they're not going to get funding. But if you need to go to a bank and get funding, if you're going to have an investor come in, then you might have, or then you're going to have to create a business plan. But you'll do it during that foundation after you've narrowed down that business idea and after you've created either your lean canvas or your business model canvas.
Next question. Someone wanted to know if they should get an LLC for their business. They were early on and they didn't have a lot of sales yet. But a lot of people online say you should go out and get your LLC right away.
Yeah, so this one, it's tough to give generic advice. And once again, we're not attorneys, we're not a lawyer, or we're not an accountant. But here's general guidance when it comes to creating a business entity. So you can start a business today without forming any sort of legal entity. And basically, you'll just be a sole proprietor and you can go and run a business. The benefit of that is it's cheap to start, it's easy, and you don't have to worry about any extra paperwork. The downfall of that is if you ever got sued, they could sue you for all of your personal items because the business and your personal items are just you. If you get one of these entities, so whether it's an LLC, a legal liability company, or an S corp, a couple other ones out there, what that actually does is it creates a separate entity. The business is separate from your personal. So if you ever got sued, the only thing at risk is your business assets when what would be in your LLC, and they couldn't go after your house, your car, your personal items. Now, with all that said, so when people are considering whether they get a business entity or not, there's two things really to consider. One is, are you at risk for being sued? So if your business or industry is in a high risk industry, it probably makes sense to get some sort of an entity, and it'd be good to talk to an attorney to figure out which one's best for you. The second thing, and this is almost a misconception for a lot of people, is they think they have to have a business entity in order to get tax deductions. The reality is that whether you get an LLC or an S corp or a DBA or sole proprietorship, all of those businesses are called pass-through entities or flow-through entities. So the business doesn't actually file a return. All the profits and losses go back to your personal tax return.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually don't get much tax benefit from any of those. So if you're trying to open one just for a tax benefit, it's not worth it. Now, there's one small caveat, and this is where your accountant can help you, is if you have an S corporation and you make a certain amount of money, it actually can save you a little bit of money on what's called your self-employment tax, but that would be something to talk with your accountant.
Yeah, now you're getting technical, man.
So,
next question.
Well, I was gonna say, so long and short of that is basically talk to your accountant and to your attorney, and in most cases, you actually don't need an entity right away. You can get started as a sole proprietor, and if you want to have a special name that your business runs under, you can spend $25 at your local county clerk and get a DBA, a doing business as.
Well, I think it's 25 here in New York. I think other places it's
10.
No, it's actually the ones that are like $75 where they live.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. A couple more questions here. So how do I start hiring? I'm overworked and I've never hired anyone before. So I'll actually let you answer this one.
It's a good question. So basically what you want to do when you need to hire someone is sit down and make a list of all of the things that you need done. What are you looking for with this person that you're going to hire? What jobs are they responsible for? What training do they need? What training are you going to provide when they get there? And then once you have that list, you can kind of figure out where you're going to look for people. Because now that everything's online, a lot of people try to find people to hire on all those websites like monster.com and Indeed and all these job finders. But it's honestly very difficult to find people online because it's such a flooded market. And then you've got like all the spammy type places that are trying to hire people, and it's just weird. So I actually found that looking locally first was much more helpful, and this obviously is because we had offline businesses, not online. But it was much easier to just throw an ad in the newspaper and put it on a local Facebook page or the local because I don't know if everyone has this, but we have a local hiring website. So we kind of put that stuff there first. And then if you have the right criteria and you word your ad the right way, you're going to get people applying that are actually relevant for that job. And then the other thing is to make sure you have all of those boxes checked for your legal stuff. So you have to make sure that you have your like employer registration number, which is similar to your tax ID, but not exactly the same. That takes weeks. So don't expect to just go hire someone before you have that employer registration number, because you should probably have that in place before. If how you're going to pay those people, if you're going to use a payroll company, if you're going to try to do it yourself. If you do it yourself, you have to make sure that you're taking out the right taxes and the right deductions, because otherwise the state will fine you. So it is quite a task, but if you go the route of planning ahead and dotting your I's and crossing your T's, it's not as bad as you think. And if you start with one person and it doesn't work out, then you try again.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot to that. We actually have a course we're going to be creating in the academy soon all around hiring.
Yes, we've had a lot of people ask that question.
Yeah, but I mean, a couple things are, make sure you understand what type of person you're looking to hire, because the personality mix and making sure that they're a good fit for either working with you or working with your other employees is big. Make sure you understand what you're going to actually have them do. So this involves, figuring out what your standard operating procedures are, how you'll train them, and how you'll make sure that, they are doing the job you need. And then a big part of this too is figuring out what sort of employee do you need. So you may be able to hire a contractor, someone that, you just pay when you need them and they do specific jobs, or you might actually hire an employee that actually works for you. So there's a lot of stuff to go through with that, but I think those are a couple good starting points.
Yeah, and even if you're hiring a virtual assistant, you still want to go through and do your due diligence for jobs. And, a lot of people say go overseas and hire VAs because it's cheaper, but is it really going to save you that much time and effort if you have to go through a couple VAs before you find someone that works for you?
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things too is whether you're hiring someone online or offline, your interview process should basically be the same. So just because you're hiring a VA overseas or hiring someone online, run them through the same criteria that you would run someone through if they were coming to your office and you were interviewing them. Because that's a challenge that a lot of people have, is they don't put them through the same rigor, and then they run into a lot of the issues that could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're running down the clock here. Let's do our last question before we end for the night.
All right, so last question we had is, how do I even find time to start a business?
That's a great question.
Yeah, one of the big
I don't know,
things,
because you have to answer that, because it wasn't me that started it.
yeah, I was gonna say one of the big things, and like we talked about before, key thing here is really looking at where your time is spent today. And then there's a lot of things you can look at to say, what can I cut out or what can I have someone else do in order to free up some of my time to start the business. So, like when we went through and we actually had to change this a couple times, like especially, when you gave birth to our son, that drastically changed your schedule. So we had to go through and do a time audit and say, what time of the day do you actually have free for some of this stuff?
None.
And then from there, what do we got to do? What do I have to pick up, or what do we have to hire someone else to do so that we can still have things running? So long and short of it, we all have 24 hours in a day. It's really figuring out where your time's going and then being intentional to make sure that where you're spending time is in alignment with what your lifestyle goals are and what you're trying to achieve.
All right. Yeah, we did that pretty fast.
All right. Looks like that's all the questions we have.
I think so. I don't think let me just double check the Facebook group and make sure no one posted any other questions.
Okay, so while Ariana is double checking that, we just want to thank you guys for listening today. If you're not in our free Facebook group, we'd love to have you. You can get there by going to sscommunity.co. And really we have about 1,000 members in here right now. This is just a free place for entrepreneurs to hang out. ask questions, get support, get guidance. And then we also have a whole bunch of free resources on our website. So we have a podcast that we talk through a whole bunch of business topics in a lot more detail. We got close to 100 blog posts, and then we've got a lot of different information, and we're going to continue adding to it as we build out this startup roadmap and continue adding more to Startup Academy. So those are 2 great free resources for you. And if the Academy is something that sounds good to you, or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have you there, and we'd love to help you grow your business.
And if you're watching this on a replay and you come up with some questions, or you just have some comments that you'd like to make, you can jump into the Facebook group. You can shoot me an email reply to one of the 1,000 reminders I sent you about the webinar, and we will definitely get back to you and answer that question for you.
Yep. And finally, just a last reminder, if you are interested in joining Startup Academy, it's going up to $39 a month this Friday. So this is the week to get in. We'd love to have you.
Yep. You'd be a founding member, and we will be on your court to help you with your business.
All right. So with that, we will call it a night. We'll let you all go back to bed, and we will go back to bed as well.
It's only 9:20. You can't tell people we go to bed that early.
Hey, we have 2 kids that don't always sleep through the night. So, it is what it is. We're being real.
Yep. Keeping it real.
All right. Well, it's been great. And hopefully we see you guys in the Facebook group. And if you're joining the Academy, we'll see you in there.
Bye.
Bye.